This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Welcome, everybody, to the Monday Night Raw review here on the WWE Podcast. It's Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023, and we've got a mere few days until we have the next pay-per-view event, but we're already thinking about Money in the Bank, and WWE next Monday night will start those Money in the Bank qualifiers that leads to the Money in the Bank event that takes place July 1st in the O2 Arena in London. So before you know it, it's all going to be all Money in the Bank all the time with qualifier matches, I would imagine, on both Raw and SmackDown for several weeks. And yours truly, as I mentioned earlier, will be in attendance this coming Monday night with a sign that you should be able to see. And again, my plan, if you're new to the show, I'm going to try to sneak in a sign that is extremely visible, and it's just going to say the WWE Podcast. I was going to bring my poster that I have with my logo that I keep in my office, but the problem with that is I don't think that it's allowed because it's considered quote-unquote commercial. So if I just have a sign that's handwritten, that there's no logo, it's just the WWE Podcast, well, I don't know if that's going to be a problem, right? So that's probably what you're going to see. I don't know if you'll see the logo, but you definitely should see the sign. And if you don't, that means it got confiscated, okay? But I don't see why it would be if I just write those three words. It's not offensive. It's generic, but hey. Anyway, let's move on. I got a couple of announcements. Number one, Mr. and Mrs. Casual Wrestling Fan make their triumphant return tomorrow night to the WWE Podcast because they are going to be doing the email portion of our mailbag show. It's duly named the Takeover Mailbag Show, and they'll be doing that tomorrow night as they do every pay-per-view week. And so send in your questions, guys. Send in your emails to realwwepodcast@gmail.com or mailbag@wwepodcast.com, and I will forward them on to Mr. and Mrs. Casual Wrestling Fan, where they will answer your emails. And it's great to have them back. Excited to have them back. It's been too damn long. So they make their triumphant return tomorrow night. Other than that, one more thing. Patreon is a great place to go ad-free, but it's even better than ever now. Why? Because we are now offering a free 7-day trial. A 7-day free trial for those of you who may be on the fence about getting onto the ad-free train. This is now your time. We have never before ever done a 7-day free trial, not just for the NXT tier, but for the SmackDown tier. Those are $1 and $5 tiers normally, but you can get them for free for 7 days. Try it out. If you don't like it, that means you can just bail. You don't have to pay a dime, and you were able to get a bunch of shows ad-free. But there's never been a better time to go ad-free on Patreon. Guys, this may not last long, so check it out. Patreon.com/WWE Podcast if you want to go ad-free and you just want to be able to listen to your show and not have to deal with the ads. It is now free for 7 days. There's the catch, right? But it is free for a week, and that'll include your preview and prediction show for the Night of Champions event, the Night of Champions review event, the mailbag tomorrow night, the AEW review on Friday, as well as the SmackDown review on Saturday, just before the pay-per-view. So, guys, it's really risk-free. I'm not trying to be an infomercialist, but it really is true. So, check it out, patreon.com/WWE Podcast, or you can just traditionally sign up on Apple Podcasts, go ad-free there, or at wwepodcast.com or wwepodcastshop.com for all your merch. All right, Monday Night Raw, guys. Let's talk about it. There were rumors going around, and I primarily got this. I mean, any internet website, big internet wrestling website was reporting this, as well as Another podcast I really like, guys. It's not. I do love The Torch. I love Jason Powell. They're both amazing. Wade Keller and Jason Powell do an excellent job on their own shows, and especially when they do their show together. There's a free plug for you. But also JD from New York. If you guys haven't listened to his show, just search for it. JD from NY. He has a great TikTok account. He's got 50,000 plus followers on Twitter. He's gravitational when he speaks. He's very passionate, intelligent about wrestling. I'd really recommend you check out JD from NY. I'm not trying to push people away from this show, but if you also want content that's real and raw and not so positive about everything like some shows are, JD from NY. There's your free plug, guys. Really unsolicited. Anyway, Monday Night Raw was reported by JD from NY and others that Vince McMahon was running Raw, that he had from a distance written the show. Those are reports. Now, if we take this at face value, you could see where Vince McMahon was involved, or at least perceived to be involved. Some segments were not good. Some people really didn't like the Trish segment. I have other thoughts on that. Some people really didn't like the Trish segment. I have conflicting thoughts and not negative ones. Also, the Brock Lesnar stuff, people felt that Vince was really involved in that. Look, it's tough from a fan's perspective to know what's true and what's not. I certainly hope it's not true that Vince McMahon is writing for the show or has any kind of creative impact at all. As I've said before, Vince McMahon should stay as far away from creative as possible. It should be like kryptonite to him. And he should only be called upon when necessary. He should only have input in creative when he's called upon. That's it. It shouldn't be just a regular process. It should be like, Triple H, trying to pick the brain of Vince for whatever's left of it before he eventually does pass, right? I mean, let's be honest. He's human too. But regardless of who was running Raw, I thought it was an okay show, to decent show. Many people thought it was an awful Raw. JD from NY actually said that it was one of the worst Raws he'd seen this year. I'm not of that belief. I actually thought Raw was solid. Do I think it has that it lived up to the hype of a go-home show for Night of Champions? Kinda. I mean, the thing is, over the last many years, our expectations for go-home shows have decreased dramatically. And I think there's a few reasons for that, but mainly because there's not a need to really push for a hot fever pitch feel to the final show before the pay-per-view, as they're now known as premium live events, because the pay-per-view model is dead. It's the network, right? The Peacock and or the WWE network, which means you already have a subscription, So I think that's part of it. And I have lowered my expectations. Even the go-home show to WrestleMania oftentimes is kind of ho-hum. Going into Wrestle-effing-Mania. And this was kind of no different. It was an okay show to decent. I'd give it like a C+ show for going into Night of Champions. And this does feel like a B pay-per-view. I know they're trying to sell it as 3 main events. It's a marketing, it's a marketing push. I'm not going to complain about it. They're a business. They're trying to push it. And to be fair, all 3 of the matches they're trying to push to us as main events could be main events. But the problem is when you tell me there's multiple main events, there's only one main event. It's the match that goes on last. The end of story, right? Same with WrestleMania when they try to sell us, well, they have 2 main events, night 1 and night 2. Nonsense. It's the match that goes on last. Main event is a singular term by definition. I don't believe in multiple main events. Main event is meant to be singular. But fine. I'm not going to sit here and belabor the point. But you could really pick any one of those 3 and make it a main event, sure. Okay. But what really ran throughout the show was the Brock Lesnar angle with Cody Rhodes and the beating that Cody Rhodes took at the hands of Brock Lesnar before the show started. And Brock Lesnar beating him pretty rough. I mean, like, even if Cody didn't sustain any actual injury, and I don't believe he did, then he is certainly bruised and battered. I mean, there's no soft landing backstage with concrete and, shipping crates and empty kegs and all that stuff. All that. There's no safe, cushy California King landing. So regardless, Cody Rhodes is feeling it. That said, the beating was brutal. The beating was uncomfortable. I think that's the best way to put it. And I don't mean uncomfortable as in channel changing. I mean it in a complimentary way where it made you uneasy that someone could do this to someone else and be okay with it. That's good heel heat. And Brock Lesnar had mission accomplished. It created sympathy for Cody, and it created heat for Brock. Mission accomplished. And the crowd's going along with it. So they're doing what they should be, and they're doing it well. And having Brock Lesnar use the keg to, quote-unquote, break the arm of Cody was a nice spot. And it did make you wonder if Cody's now going to be pulled from that main event and Brock's going to face somebody else. And they almost went that road. But then Brock came out, and hey, I actually was thinking that Brock was going to, when he stood there, and I was like, oh my God, we're going to get a Brock explanation. Oh my God. And of course, we didn't. And I still do not excuse WWE for not giving us a reason for why Brock Lesnar attacked Cody. I'm not being desensitized to their lack of basic storytelling. I'm not excusing them or giving them a pass on the idea that, well, it's Brock Lesnar. We don't need a reason. If anything, you need more of a reason because he's a big star. And wouldn't you want to know why a big star is doing what they're doing, particularly when they're changing casting roles from baby to heel or heel to babyface? Isn't that even more of a reason to provide an explanation? But the powers that be feel it's not necessary to give us any kind of reason for anything Brock Lesnar does. This is not just exclusive to a Cody Rhodes program, as I said before, but it's an important point to bring up because it's not okay. It is not excusable, and they are missing an opportunity to be able to bring fans even more into Brock Lesnar's motivations and into the story itself by not giving us a damn explanation. I don't give them a pass on this, and I'm not going to just be like, whatever, it's Brock. No, some of you are, and if you don't care, then you don't care. I do, because it insults the intelligence of fans. It's lazy that they can't just provide us even the simplest of explanations. I don't know. That said, we did get Cody coming back out, and he tried to attack Brock. Brock then put him in the Kimura. That was really uncomfortable to watch. And I actually was thinking that he was going to snap the arm, where, sometimes you've seen Brock do that, where he, twists in an extra few inches, and it's the visual of snapping the arm. He didn't do that. But the idea is that Brock did break the arm of Cody. That is the idea. That is the story. And I like it. It's believable that Brock could do this. It also creates a sympathetic side to Cody. If anybody was even thinking about booing Cody, then this certainly may change your mind. He's going in with a handicap right away. And it makes you wonder, could Cody pull this off given he beat Rollins with a torn pec back at Hell in a Cell, the infamous torn pec match? Now, I have no problem with this in principle, but there's a couple things that concern me. If Cody Rhodes, who's about 100 pounds lighter than Brock and about half the strength of Brock Lesnar and not as fast as Brock is or as good of a striker or any of that, if he can beat Brock in a wrestling, even though it's a wrestling ring, with a broken arm, I think that's a little much for me. It goes a little bit too over the top for me. Because I think that would diminish Brock a little bit. That you have Cody Rhodes coming in who has one arm and he's able to beat you. I know that the story is, well, he did it to Seth, but Seth is not Brock Lesnar. Nobody is Brock Lesnar. So Brock Lesnar taking a loss at the Backlash event, clean, to a wrestling maneuver, I think lends itself to the Brock Lesnar winning at Night of Champions. Now, I'm not firm in that answer. We'll have to take another couple of days. And by the way, Anthony DeMarco is going to be joining me on the preview and prediction show. He wasn't here with me live yesterday. Feeling a bit under the weather. That's why you guys got a From the Vault episode. But he'll be with me in a couple of days to give you the full preview and prediction for Night of Champions. So don't miss that. But I don't think it's believable to have Cody beat Brock with one arm. I mean, he barely beat him with two. But the story throughout the match is going to be, of course, the arm of Cody, the arm of Cody, the arm of Cody. And Cody will have it in some kind of cast, I would imagine. Because if it's truly broken, he will. Now, the other part of this is, well, yeah, sure, Cody was avoiding a doctor throughout the show to avoid being pulled from his match with Brock. Because he knew that if he got the diagnosis, if WWE management got the diagnosis from a doctor, the official diagnosis, that he had a broken arm, the match would be off. And I guess we're supposed to believe this is courageous from Cody. That it's about toughness, as Triple H said, as he confronted Cody on screen for the first time. I find this to be stupidity on the end of Cody, refusing medical attention for the sake of his ego. I mean, that's what this is. Wouldn't you want to fight Brock when you thought you had the best chance to actually beat him, instead of allowing Brock to now have a massive target on your literally on your shoulder? I mean, no. I mean, most people aren't thinking like this. I understand that. Most people just look at this as surface level, and it's Cody just trying to be tough and, gut it through, and he promised the fans and all this. But it's selfish and it's stupid for Cody to do this. But that's not how WWE frames their baby faces, so that's never what the story or narrative will be. But it is dumb and it is selfish to do. In reality, if this was a true fight, but it's not. So, in pro wrestling land, let's just take this at face value again. Fine. He's refusing medical attention so the match doesn't get booted. But Triple H himself, who we all know is in charge of creative, at least to the public he is, but who knows what goes on backstage. Triple H even said, "Hey Cody, I know that you don't want a doctor in here because if they identify your arm's broken, the match is off. But I can even see that your arm is broken without even getting a doctor in here." Well, then even if you can look at it and tell it's broken, then you have an obligation as a company, from a liability standpoint, even if the doctor's not there, to call the match off. You yourself said that you can just see it's broken. It's like, this is a little bit more dramatic, but it's the same kind of analogy. Someone comes in and say they shot Cody. Okay, it's a bit extreme, right? But bear with me. Well, let's use a knife. They stab Cody, right? They stab Cody right in the arm. And he's like, "No, I don't want medical attention. Get the doctors out of here. I want my match with Brock." And it's like, well, yeah, okay. The doctors are not going to evaluate you and be able to provide a quote unquote official medical exam to management to make the decision if the match should continue or not. But if you can just see that, wow, yeah, that's definitely a stab wound, I don't need a doctor to tell me that, well, then you still have an obligation to call off the match. It won't be called off. I'm digging too deep, I understand, but these are the kinds of things I think about. Triple H himself said it's broken. I can look at it and tell. It's like, well, then the match shouldn't be going on. Now, what they could do, and what I would recommend they do, is make this a non-sanctioned match, right? That way, Cody has to sign a waiver. Maybe the announcers will say this or something like that, where WWE is not liable for any further injury or worse that may occur to you during this match. That would make sense. They've done unsanctioned matches before. Why not? Right? That's what I would do. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And we get Cody Rhodes in an unsanctioned, non-sanctioned, whatever it is, match with Brock, with all the liability removed from WWE and storyline. Right? Anyway, I thought this woven throughout the show was interesting. it is nice having that main story threaded throughout the show. It creates a sense of stability to the show, a sense of direction to the show, instead of just like all these 10 different random storylines and programs going on, and it's just you jump from one to the next to the next. It's just like the foundation of the show. That's what this was. And that's what I think most show structures should be. Whatever the main storyline is, it's the main storyline for a reason. There should at least be a couple of segments throughout the show, at least promoting it, or pieces of it leading to the match at the end of the show. Anyway, I thought it was fine. It did build up heat for Brock, and it gave sympathy to Cody. So, still no explanation from Brock, and I'm not forgetting that. So, okay, moving on. Let's see what we got. We got Paul Heyman once again as a guest of the show, and why? Why is Paul Heyman a guest on Monday Night Raw? For what reason? I understand Paul Heyman's a big figure, but honestly, his presence here didn't really do much for me. It didn't add to the build for the tag title match with KO and Sami versus Solo and Roman, which, by the way, is Solo Sikoa just now known as Solo? I have not heard anyone mention his last name. So did they chop that off? Did they do their infamous get rid of his last name thing? That's very Vincey to do. There's some evidence if you think Vince is involved in creative. He's famous for that. Getting rid of people's first or last names. He did that to Riddle. He did that to Antonio Cesaro. He did that to many others. I can't think of them. You guys could list it better than I could. But he's famous for that. And so I'm just like, what's wrong with Sikoa? I mean, I did not hear Sikoa at all. It was just Solo. If that's true that they eliminated his last name, I think Solo Sikoa is a nice name. If they truly got rid of his last name, Solo is not the same without Solo Sikoa. It's like, that's his first and last name. Everybody has a first and last name. And it flows well. It's not like his last name was embarrassing or distracting. I thought it added to him. But small detail, something to look at as we move forward if they did indeed get rid of his last name. Because, again, they have a history of this. So Paul Heyman was there and then eventually just welcomed us to Monday Night Raw, because every single person that opens the show with a promo always has to do that because we have no idea what show we're watching, and it's a corporate requirement. But boy, they were certainly very proud that they were in Hershey. They didn't hide it. They didn't hide they were in Hershey, and largely because I think Hershey is known for, well, yeah, chocolate, right? And they have a big amusement park there. So they didn't hide they were in Hershey. I would imagine they're not going to hide they're in Albany next week, only because we're not New York City, but we are the capital of New York State here in Albany. So, and by the way, hey, not Corey. Who is it? Kevin Patrick. It's not Albany. All right. Anybody that is from around here, it's not Albany. It may phonetically be spelled that way because it's not Allbany. That would be Albany. Okay. But that's how you know you are not from here in any capacity at all. If you pronounce it Albany. All right. It's Albany. But sure. Fine, Kevin. Maybe it could be his accent too. Maybe his accent has an effect on it. All right. I'm butthurt, I guess. Okay. As I shuffle through my papers here, we got then let's see, what's the first match we got? I haven't even got to a damn match yet. Before we get to the match, let me talk about the Roman Reigns comments that we were supposed to be all shocked by with Seth Rollins. I wasn't shocked by these comments, and I actually put a YouTube video up about this. If you want to go take a look at it, it's on YouTube. Just search the WWE podcast. I put up a few-minute video about the potential of Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, and the tease that they made up on a night. I think this is planting seeds to an eventual Seth versus Roman match. He didn't lay it too thick on Roman, other than to say, we need to change things around here. Roman has been selfish, taken away opportunities from so many guys, and that they need a champion they can be proud of, all this stuff. A champion that'll be here. That's basically what he said. And it's like, that's not really shocking or revolutionary. But yeah, thanks for, cool. Okay, you've said the thing that we're all thinking. I didn't hate it. I guess the expectation was raised a little higher than I saw. But it was at least interesting to hear Seth comment on Roman like that from a championship perspective in a while. Because they still inexplicably have not crossed paths from a program standpoint in a long time. You take out the January 2022 Royal Rumble match, and I don't know what was before that, but they have not had a long-standing program that runs multiple months. It's just kind of like here and there every few years, where they deserve a multi-month 3, maybe 4 match program that culminates. It doesn't have to culminate at WrestleMania. It doesn't. It could culminate at a SummerSlam or even a B pay-per-view. It really could. Because by the 4th match, or even 3rd match, do you really want that match at WrestleMania when you've seen it before? That's kind of the argument of having a first-time matchups at WrestleMania, because most people could say, or everyone can say, hey, I haven't seen this before, right? So, but it was at least fun to hear and exciting for those that have been waiting for a Roman Seth rematch, proper program, encouraging. Now, even though he mentioned them and there were words thrown at Roman by Seth, it doesn't excite me that it's going to happen anytime soon, because the other half of the conversation was about AJ and what he meant to the business. And they did some really nice video packages on AJ from his early or late 90s days up until now when he became champion in 2017, and the run he had on SmackDown and all that. It was all well done. Seth, same thing. I wish they focused more, by the way, on the championship itself, not just the competitors. They missed that mark. The championship, to me, if anything, was more important. If they were going to skip the video packages and just focus on the championship itself, I think I would have taken that trade, because the championship is what the guys were supposed to believe are here to achieve. And when we see who has held it before and what it means, and promos and interviews from legends and Hall of Famers about the championship and what it means, that is what can help make a championship. So the thing is, I guess we're all supposed to be pretending that this is a brand new championship, because I haven't heard them mention anything about the lineage of it. It's like they're treating this championship as brand new. It's not. Okay? They may have redesigned it a bit and plopping in the WWE logo in the middle of it, but this is not a brand new championship. Physically, it's different, but conceptually and in reality, it's not. It's the same championship that has existed up until they retired it, 5, 6, 7 years ago, maybe more than that. It has existed it's existed for decades, and all of a sudden they're bringing it back and they're ignoring the lineage. I think that's a big mistake. Unless I missed something on Raw, I didn't really hear them talk about the lineage at all. But I still enjoyed the video packages and the comments about AJ Styles that Seth was making, complimentary comments about once in a generation star, and how hard AJ's worked to come back, and all this is very good. And it does make you really more excited about seeing this match than you came into Raw in terms of excitement level, and I think that's a win. So they're going to put on an amazing matchup. Easily AJ's biggest match since his return. Biggest match maybe he's arguably had in years. When you think about what AJ has done over the last several years, it's not very impressive, at least from the standpoint of what he was prior to that and what he's capable of. If you remember, this is just going off memory, and my memory is not great, but he was with Omos for a little while, playing a heel. He didn't he win the tag team championships at like 2 years ago at WrestleMania, and then him and Omos just disappeared, and then Omos eventually ditched him, and then he got back with the OC, and that didn't really mean anything because AJ Styles is on Mount Olympus, and the rest of the star power is down in the valley. I mean, I'm sorry, that's just what it is. Like it's just AJ Styles is so far above everyone else in the OC, from Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, that it's not even close. Those guys feel near irrelevant without AJ Styles, and it's not where you want to be as a performer. Like, you don't want to have to rely on another star being there to make you relevant. That's not good. So he had a kind of mediocre run with the OC. After he dropped the WWE title, what was it, 2018, 2019? And ever since then, it's been 3-4 years since AJ Styles has been actually relevant in the championship picture. So while most people believe that AJ Styles is probably going to lose this match, and I would concur with that, there is an argument to be made for AJ to win this. It's a weak argument, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible that AJ Styles wins this match. And actually, with AJ Styles winning it, he'd come to Raw, you'd imagine, although they haven't addressed that little snippet, which tells you he's probably not going to win. But if he came to Raw, AJ Styles on Raw, sounds good to me. Hey. But I think that Seth is absolutely a heavy favorite in this matchup. But AJ is not going to leave anything he is going to leave everything in the ring. There's no doubt about that. I have no concerns about AJ from a performance standpoint, from an effort standpoint. And it's actually kind of amazing, given his age and mileage on his body, that he's able to even perform at this level. And he probably has to work twice as hard at his age and mileage to get at the level he wants to be at. It's downright really amazing, and excited to see what he can do at Night of Champions. All right. Boy, I'm putting everybody over today. I got to stop being so nice. All right, we got Bronson Reed and Ricochet, and Bronson Reed beat Ricochet in about 8 minutes with a tsunami splash. Fine, fun, no problem. And Reed continues to dominate, except when it gets to the big match, which is fine. He's dominating mid-card stars right now, and that's better than him dominating, the local wrestlers. I like this. So, no problem here. Apollo Crews was then interviewed by Kathy Kelly, and Crews wished Cody the best and then started to talk about his own excitement regarding the main roster, his return, and Dominic and Rhea interfered or interrupted, and Dom acted like he didn't know who Crews was and claimed it was Ripley's interview time. Crews let them speak briefly and then stood up for himself, which led to Dom just agreeing to have a match later in the show. Okay, then we got I already talked about Seth's sit-down interview. God, I love sit-down interviews. And by the way, putting someone else over, Corey Graves, he is absolutely the anchor of Monday Night Raw. Let's just be honest. But I think he particularly excels at sit-down interviews. I mean, we should have like a sit-down interview of the week with Corey Graves. He seems like he's just cut out for that. He's effective. He's believable. He looks the part. I don't know. Just something about Corey Graves in a sit-down interview that just fits. So hats off to Corey Graves in that respect. All right. Then we've got Zoey Stark and Candice LaRae. Stark went right at LaRae with her shoulder block in the corner, and then Stark followed up with a nice suplex, a drop kick, and then Nikki Cross ran to the ring and pounded on the mat in support of Candice LaRae. And LaRae sent Stark to ringside and then hit a springboard dive onto her. And Cross grabbed LaRae and celebrated with her until Stark took advantage by running into both women. That sent LaRae crashing into the steps. Stark threw LaRae back inside the ring, hit her with the Z360 finish, and got the victory. This all happened in about 2.5 minutes. It took me longer to explain it than the actual match that took place. But Zoey Stark got the victory. So, yeah, there's that. All right. Hilarious next segment here. Ali was being interviewed by Byron Saxton, and Saxton played up Ali's match with Gunther at Night of Champions as the biggest match in his career, which, by the way, there was like next to no promotion for this match, which tells you there is a next to no, there is literally a negative chance that Ali wins at Night of Champions, by the way. But Ali said Saxton was probably expecting a quote about positivity, but this is way too real for him, I guess. Ali said he's dreamt of this moment since he was a kid, and yet he's never actually come close to that. Brock Lesnar then walked into the picture, barged through their interview, looked at Ali, and said, "Get a life, kid." Hilarious. Can this be a meme? Can this be a t-shirt? I don't know where he got that or why he said this, but I loved it. It just fits Brock. Brock's quick-witted, but kind of in like a non-intricate way. It's weird. Brock just says stuff, but it's never really like very intricate and well thought out. It's just kind of impulse words. And I don't know if this was an impulse thing from Brock or what this was, but it was hilarious. Like, why does Ali have to get a life? What does that even mean? Of course he's got a life, right? Like when you break down the logic of this, it's a Brock Lesnar thing to say, and it was funny as hell. All right. So, we got the Kimura segment with Cody after that, but all right, then we got the Viking Raiders versus Alpha Academy, and there was a brief "We Want Otis" chant. He eventually got the hot tag. Otis body slammed Ivar and splashed Eric in the corner. And this ended up with Eric picking up Gable to pass him off, but Gable kicked Ivar off the ropes and then rolled up Eric and pinned him. So the Alpha Academy get a victory in just under 5 minutes. Is that the first time they've got a victory as a team in like a year? It has to be, right? All right. However, Shinsuke Nakamura made his entrance because he had a match with Finn Balor next. But an ad for SmackDown that hyped KO show had guests Roman and Solo, and Austin Theory versus Sheamus to the U.S. Championship for SmackDown. Veer Mahan and Sangha were shown standing in a smoky room while Jinder Mahal spoke. Mahal called them forces of nature and said the storm is here, and then entered the picture and asked what happens next. So, brief, but as effective as it could be segment for Veer Mahan and Sangha and Jinder Mahal. Shinsuke versus Finn happened next, and a good match. Now, these two are capable of a 30, 40, 50, 60. They could have an hour match. They're both just so technically sound, and while there is no real, I guess, emotional investment for Shinsuke, he's just respected, and he's always just kind of the B player. He's dynamic, he's unique, he does have this gravity to him, but you know that, if he loses, you won't be shocked. If he wins, you won't be shocked. He's just there, but you also enjoy his matches. Shinsuke's a kind of a conundrum for a lot of fans. And it ended with Finn Balor beating Shinsuke in about 13 minutes here. And again, not hurting Shinsuke, not really elevate. Well, I guess it did help Finn a little bit, I think, who needed some assistance in getting victories. Finn Balor has, taken a couple of losses lately, so fine with this. And moving on here. Raquel and Sonya Deville. So, yeah, they're... WWE once again mentioned about the injury to Liv Morgan that caused Raquel and Liv to relinquish the Women's Tag Team Championships. So Raquel versus Sonya Deville happened. Chelsea Green was at ringside. This match was about, probably just under 2 minutes. And it ended with a Tejada bomb on Sonya Deville quickly. So Sonya Deville continues to be an absolute, in-house enhancement talent for the women. But after this, Green attacked Rodriguez, and Shotzi ran out and helped Rodriguez clear the ring. So Shotzi is now Liv's replacement, I guess. And Raquel stood on the middle rope, and Shotzi performed a dive through the ropes onto both at ringside. So here's the thing. Okay, Raquel Rodriguez is a star in the making. I think she is a big star in the making. Future women's champion. I don't think there's any question about that. She's got a great look, physically imposing. She's an attractive woman. That doesn't hurt. And she's decent on the microphone and good in the ring. Here's what's working against her right now. She's miscast. Miscast big time. I don't buy her character. She feels phony. And what I mean by that is she should be a heel. Point blank. She should not be a babyface. A babyface who has, forced smiling, flexing their back. It's just, especially when you're that much much more physically imposing than your opponents, than 95% of your opponents, that automatically puts you in a non-sympathetic role and automatically puts you as the favorite in most matches because of your size. So I don't know. Raquel feels out of place as a babyface right now. She may have a nice little smile, and she's a pretty girl. That doesn't fix the problem though. When she can't help herself but act cocky sometimes. And the entrance of flexing her back, are we all supposed to be impressed about her shoulder muscles and the tone and size of her her lats? Are we going to go through the muscle groups and freeze frame it and all be so impressed? That's not a babyface entrance. So fans are starting to also kind of catch on to this, where you don't hear a big reaction for Raquel when she comes out. You just don't. Because fans are just not buying it. They're not buying the marketing of her as a babyface. They're just, listen to the reaction. When there's kind of a lulled, muted reaction, that's a sign that it could be a babyface or heel problem. In this case it is, but it could be other things. Yeah, so anyway, I just wanted to point that out. I can't get invested in Raquel as a babyface. She's cringy as a babyface sometimes, and it's almost tone deaf as well. And a lack of self-awareness from Raquel herself or management to say, hey, when you're flexing and stuff like that, that's not a typical babyface move, especially for the women. I know Bobby flexes in his entrance, but you remember Bobby Lashley. Remember the pose, the poses he did when he was a heel with MVP. So it's more of a heel activity than it is babyface. But Shotzi is the replacement for Monday Night Raw for the Fatal 4-Way Tag Team Championship match for the women. All right. Third hour of Raw. So Trish Stratus and Becky Lynch. I've heard a lot of negativity around this segment. I actually enjoyed it more than most. I didn't love everything, particularly Becky being a cocky kind of throwback heel to where she was before, wearing ridiculous outfits that why? Why? I don't understand why she needs to do that. And also sitting there like she's too cool for school, ignoring Trish. Like, I've been here, done that. I don't need to listen to you. That's heel Becky. That her body language for about 75% of that promo or contract signing was screaming heel. And that was not a good look for Becky. However, I thought, where most people disagree with me here, that the content of Trish's promo as a heel was good. I enjoy Trish as a heel. The alternative is her really bad as a babyface. Okay, so maybe the bar is set low, but Trish as a heel just feels better. And the thank you Trish stuff, I have no problem with. I think it's clever. It's arrogant. It's self-centered. All of that is really good. Okay, at least in my mind. And so Trish was trying to take credit for everything that the women had accomplished to today, including Becky, because she paved the way, that she is still the best. She said she's the GOAT. And Trish said that Lynch thinks she's it, and then questioned what will happen once she beats Lynch at Night of Champions, and questioned whether Lynch would go back into a dark place to have to, quote, go through stuff again. She said, once again, said that it was her first contract signing and it would be Lynch's last. And Lynch said Trish was scared. And it's all about Trish wanting flowers. Lynch thanked Trish and then said she was thanking her for being everything she hopes she never becomes. And Lynch said she can look at herself in the mirror even though she's not as perfect as Stratus thinks she is. And Lynch said Stratus had done things that would give her nightmares and said, quote, "If you think barking like a dog is embarrassing, just wait till I whoop your ass at Night of Champions," and said, "Welcome to the big time." I know that, again, this got bad reviews. I didn't hate it from Trish's perspective. Becky was acting a little heelish, but I thought it was okay. To even good, do I dare say, to at least get this match to a place where people are saying they're at least interested in seeing it. And I am. So we'll see if this Trish Stratus character, by the way, goes beyond this one match with Becky. You know, when you turn somebody heel, it's usually not just for a match. It's for a series of matches. So we'll see if that happens. Or maybe Lita, who has yet to speak on this whole thing or talk since she was attacked by Trish a month and a half ago. That hasn't even happened yet. So maybe Lita will have something to say about this at Night of Champions. All right, Dominic versus Apollo Crews. Dominic beat Crews in about 5 minutes after, of course, we got interference from Mommy, but boy, is Rhea Ripley over. I mean, the Mommy chants are, at least they happen at least once every Monday Night Raw, and people are ready for her to just go explode on her own. She's in a heel group as a babyface. People are just so behind her, even though she's in a group that people hate in a good way. But Dominic getting the victory here, it was only surprising from the perspective that when you typically reintroduce a new star, that new star, or at least repackaged star, gets the victory. Not in this case, which was interesting. So I hope Apollo and Dominic, maybe go their separate ways. They're just not in the right places, I think, in their careers to be having a program. Dom needs to continue to win, but also Apollo is repackaged and you want him to get some momentum. So it's kind of a no-win situation for both men. Not the right time. But if they keep them as a program, I would imagine it's going to be 50-50 booking, which is, again, doesn't help anybody. All right. Let's see. Then we get the, what's it? Am I on the main event here? I think we are. Yeah. Yeah. The main event here, which was Gunther, Ludwig Kaiser, Giovanni Vinci, Imperium versus Riddle, Owens, and Sami Zayn. And good match, as you'd expect. 15 minutes worth of a main event. So lengthy main event by today's standards. And it ended, as I said, with getting the victory for Kevin, Sami, and KO. Or rather, Kevin, Sami, and Riddle. Sorry, guys. I'm like reading my notes, and it's not going well, obviously. But here's an example of kind of also a no-win situation where Imperium does need to continue to build momentum as well. I mean, we didn't hear from Gunther hardly at all about him defending his IC title, yet he's somehow invested in this kind of in-between rivalry with Sami, Kevin, and Riddle. And I don't like having Gunther on the losing side of anything, even though he had no decision or he wasn't involved in the decision of the fall. It still, I think, diminishes Imperium a little bit because Imperium should be looked at and feared. And outside of Gunther, they're just not. But this is a group that I think has not seen their best days yet. And Riddle aligning himself with KO and Sami, of course, is temporary to just even out the odds, right? I don't know if Randy Orton's going to be showing up. We've heard conflicting reports. I don't know if, I've heard everything as you have, from he's never wrestling again to he's coming back next week, right? I mean, who the hell knows? Who knows with Randy Orton? But it's been close to a year now. And, I think that barring injury, he could still have a hell of a run. But what do I know? All right. So thank you everybody for listening here on the WWE podcast. Don't forget, 7-day free trial. Go check it out. Patreon.com/WWE podcast. Limited time, 7-day free trial gets you through all of the Night of Champions event, including the Discord server, including video, including exclusive shows, including the ad-free of every show that we do. So check that out. And WWEpodcastshop.com if you want to get merch, from koozies to cell phone cases to sweatshirts to t-shirts. It's all there. And tomorrow will be the mailbag. So Mr. and Mrs. Casual Wrestling Fan returning for the mailbag portion of the show. And I'll be doing the voicemails, which is going to be a lot of fun. And then the preview show for Night of Champions comes to you with Anthony DeMarco and myself on Thursday. Friday, you guys know the schedule. No retro show this week because retro shows, we only do retro shows for every non-pay-per-view week. So this is one week that we don't do the retro show, just because we don't want to get lost in the shuffle. Because when there's pay-per-view weeks, it's just bombarded with audio. So, all right. That'll do it for me, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Please give us a 5-star rating on Spotify and or Apple Podcasts. If you can do that, it does help out the show a lot. So thanks so much, everybody, and I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.